Maya Rodriguez stared at her laptop screen in her downtown Austin apartment, unable to believe what she was seeing. At 31 years old, she thought herself immune to shock when it came to her younger sister's antics. But this was something else entirely. NTHE wedding registry email had arrived at 7:43 p.m. on a Thursday, subject line cheerfully proclaiming, "Help us start our journey." Maya had clicked it expecting the usual kitchen appliances, bedding, maybe some nice cookware. Her sister Charlotte was getting married in 3 months, and despite their complicated relationship, Maya had wanted to be supportive. Instead, she found herself scrolling through a wish list that read like a billionaire's shopping spree. Item 1. Custom home theater system with surround sound -$8. $500. Item 2. All-inclusive 2-week European honeymoon package. $22,000, his and hers. $18,000, his and hers. 18 and on. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she scrolled, her marketing analyst's brain automatically tallying the total. Over $110,000 in requested gifts. For a couple who'd been together less than 2 years and had a combined income of maybe $90,000, NBUT, that wasn't even the worst part. And at the bottom of the registry, in cheerful pink script, was a note. "We know our family will come together to make our dreams come true." Special shout out to Maya, who we know will go above and beyond like always. Love you, sis. 2 hearts. Maya felt her stomach drop. She'd already committed $18,000 to Charlotte's wedding, covering the photographer, the flowers, and a significant chunk of the reception costs. Their parents, Carmen and Roberto Rodriguez, had been struggling financially since their father's construction business took a hit during the pandemic, and Maya had stepped in without being asked. Because that's what she always did. NSHE grabbed her phone and texted Charlotte, "Just saw the registry. We need to talk." NTHE response came within seconds. "I know, right? So excited. Can't wait to see what you get us." Smile. Maya's jaw clenched. She typed carefully, "Charlotte, this is excessive. I've already contributed a lot to the wedding. I can't afford to buy things off this list." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Wow. Seriously? After everything Evan and I have done for this family?" Naya blinked. Everything they'd done? Charlotte was 26, had moved back in with their parents twice in the past 3 years, and had never held a job for more than 18 months. Her fiancé, Evan Mitchell, was an assistant manager at a gym who spent most of his free time playing video games and talking about his future business ventures. "What exactly have you done?" Maya typed back, immediately regretting the confrontational tone but unable to stop herself. "You know what? If you're going to be like this, maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding at all." Naya stared at the message. Was her sister actually uninviting her? Over a refusal to buy a BMW? "Are you serious right now?" she texted. "In dead serious. If you can't support my happiness, I don't want you there." Evan agrees. No, of course Evan agreed. Evan agreed with whatever Charlotte said, especially when it involved extracting money from other people. And Maya set her phone down and walked to her kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine, and tried to calm the rage building in her chest. This wasn't just about the registry. This was the culmination of years of Charlotte treating her like a personal ATM, of their parents enabling every tantrum and demand, of Maya being cast as the responsible one, who was somehow obligated to fund her sister's increasingly expensive lifestyle. NSHE thought back to the past year alone. The loan of $3,000 that Charlotte needed for a security deposit on an apartment she never actually rented. The emergency $800 for car repairs that turned out to be for concert tickets. The countless dinners, shopping trips, and small favors that added up to thousands of dollars Maya would never see again. And now this. A wedding registry that cost more than a year of rent, with Maya's name literally attached to it as the expected benefactor. NHER phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Mija, Charlotte told me you two are fighting. Please don't make drama before the wedding. You know how sensitive she is." Maya let out a bitter laugh. Sensitive. That was the word their mother always used. Not entitled, not manipulative, not selfish. Sensitive. NSHE texted back, "Mom, have you seen her registry? She's asking for over $100,000 in gifts. She's just dreaming big. You know how brides are. Don't take it personally. She uninvited me from the wedding." A longer pause this time. Then, "I'm sure she didn't mean it. Just buy her something nice and everything will blow over." Maya set her phone to Do Not Disturb and opened her laptop again. She pulled up her bank accounts, her carefully managed savings, her retirement fund, her emergency money. She'd been so proud of reaching $85,000 in savings by 31, especially while helping support her parents and occasionally bailing out Charlotte. NBUT, looking at those numbers now, she realized something that made her feel sick. She'd been enabling this. Every time she'd said yes to Charlotte's requests, every time she'd covered a bill or forgiven a debt, she'd been teaching her sister that Maya's money was Charlotte's money. That boundaries didn't apply within family. That all Charlotte had to do was ask or demand, and Maya would cave. NNOT this time. Maya opened a new document and started writing. Not an angry email, not a hurt text, but a clear, factual accounting of every dollar she'd given Charlotte over the past 3 years. Every loan, every emergency, every casual dinner that she'd somehow ended up paying for. NTHE total came to $47,300. NSHE sat back, staring at the number. Almost $50,000. Money that could have gone toward a down payment on a house, toward truly building her future, toward anything but funding her sister's inability to live within her means. NHER phone, lit up despite Do Not Disturb. Charlotte had called repeatedly, and when Maya didn't answer, she'd resorted to FaceTime, which overrode the setting. Maya declined it. Then came a text from Charlotte's best friend and maid of honor, Jade Park. "Charlotte's really upset. You should apologize." Maya almost laughed. Apologize? For what, exactly? For declining to buy a car for someone who'd spent years taking advantage of her generosity? Another text, this time from her cousin Sophia. "Hey, Charlotte's telling everyone you're trying to ruin her wedding. What's going on?" NSO, that was the strategy. Paint Maya as the villain, get the family to apply pressure, force her back in line. It was textbook Charlotte, and it had worked for years. NBUT Maya was done playing this game. NSHE picked up her phone and called her wedding planner contact, a woman named Rachel Chen, who'd helped with several corporate events Maya had organized. "Rachel, I need your professional opinion on something." And 20 minutes later, after Rachel had reviewed Charlotte's registry and heard the full story, she let out a low whistle. "Maya, I've been planning weddings for 15 years. This is financial elder abuse, except horizontal. Your sister is exploiting you, so I'm not crazy for thinking this is outrageous. You're not crazy. You're being reasonable, and she's banking on you feeling guilty enough to cave. Don't." And after they hung up, Maya made a decision. She opened her email and began drafting a message, not to Charlotte, but to every vendor she'd already paid for the wedding. The photographer, the florist, the catering company NSHE was pulling her funding. All of it. NIF Charlotte wanted to uninvite her from a wedding Maya had substantially paid for. If Charlotte wanted to treat her like an ATM instead of a sister, then Charlotte could fund her own fairy tale. And Maya hit send on the first email, then the second, then the third. With each click, she felt lighter, freer, terrified but also exhilarated. NHER phone exploded with notifications. Charlotte had apparently discovered what Maya was doing. The messages were a mix of rage, disbelief, and desperate backpedaling. "You can't do this. You're going to ruin everything. I can't believe you're this petty. Fine, you can come to the wedding. Please, Maya, I'm begging you. You're a terrible sister." Maya read them all, her finger hovering over the reply button. Then she set the phone down and poured herself another glass of wine. Let Charlotte panic. Let her scramble. Let her, for once in her 26 years, face the consequences of her own actions. Maya opened her journal and wrote, "Today I learned that no is a complete sentence, and that family love shouldn't come with an invoice." NSHE had no idea what chaos would unfold over the next 3 months. But for the first time in years, Maya Rodriguez felt like she was standing up for herself. And it felt amazing. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in family dysfunction. Maya's phone became a weapon of psychological warfare, with messages arriving at all hours from people she hadn't heard from in years, all suddenly very concerned about family unity. NHER Aunt Beatrice, who'd skipped Maya's college graduation, texted, "Family is forever, Maya. Don't let money come between you and Charlotte." NHER cousin Marco, who still owed Maya $500 from 2 years ago, called to lecture her about being more generous. And even her grandmother in San Antonio got involved, leaving a voicemail in Spanish about how disappointed she was that Maya would cause such pain during what should be a joyous time. NBUT, the real pressure came from her parents. Carmen Rodriguez showed up at Maya's apartment on Saturday morning, letting herself in with the spare key Maya kept forgetting to ask. Maya was still in her pajamas, working on a client presentation at her dining table, when her mother appeared in the doorway looking stricken. "Mija, we need to fix this." Carmen was 58, with graying hair she kept dyed dark brown, and the kind of expressive hands that could convey entire paragraphs of disappointment. "Charlotte is heartbroken." Maya saved her document and turned to face her mother. "Charlotte uninvited me from her wedding, after I'd already paid for half of it. How exactly am I the problem here? You know how she is. She gets emotional. She says things she doesn't mean. She's 26, Mom. Not 6. She's old enough to mean what she says." Maya stood and walked to her kitchen, needing the physical distance. "Did you look at her registry? I saw it. It's a little ambitious, maybe. A little ambitious." Maya's voice rose despite her attempts to stay calm. "She's asking for $110,000 worth of gifts. She specifically called me out by name, expecting me to fund it. And when I said no, she kicked me out of the wedding I've spent $18,000 on." Carmen flinched at the number. 18,000? Photographer, florist, and a chunk of the reception. I have receipts. Maya pulled up her email on her phone, showing her mother the payment confirmations. "I did this because I love Charlotte, and because I know you and Dad are struggling. I didn't do it so she could demand a BMW." NHER mother sank into one of Maya's dining chairs, suddenly looking older. "I didn't know you'd spent that much, because I didn't advertise it, because I didn't expect anything in return except basic respect." Maya sat across from her mother. "Mom, when does it stop? When does Charlotte have to start taking care of herself? She's getting married. She's building a life. On my money. On money I've earned working 60-hour weeks, while she bounced from job to job and moved back in with you every time things got hard." Maya pulled up the document she'd created, the 3-year accounting of money given to Charlotte. She turned the laptop to face her mother. $47, $300. That's what I've given Charlotte in 3 years. Not loaned, given, because she never pays me back. And Carmen stared at the screen, her eyes moving down the list. The concert tickets disguised as car repair. The security deposit for an apartment that never existed. The endless parade of emergencies that somehow only Maya could solve. "I didn't know it was this much," Carmen whispered. "Nobody knew because I didn't want to make drama. I just kept giving because that's what I thought good sisters did. But Mom, she's not even grateful. She expects it. She feels entitled to it." Maya's voice cracked slightly. "And you enable it." And Carmen's head snapped up. "That's not fair, isn't it? When Charlotte crashed my car 2 years ago, who did you tell to be more understanding? When she borrowed $3,000 and never paid it back, who did you tell to let it go? Every time there's conflict, you tell me to be the bigger person, to not make waves, to just give her what she wants, because you're strong enough to handle it. She's more fragile." "She's not fragile, Mom. She's enabled. There's a difference." Maya closed her laptop. "And I'm done. I'm not funding this wedding anymore, and I'm not pretending it's okay that she treats me like a bank." Carmen sat in silence for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "Your father thinks you're right." Maya blinked. "What?" "He saw the registry last night. Charlotte sent it to the whole family, bragging about how generous everyone would be. Roberto looked at it and said..." Carmen paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "He said we created a monster." It was the last thing Maya expected to hear. Her father, who'd always been the softer parent when it came to Charlotte, who'd made excuses for her impulsiveness and defended her creative spirit. "He wants to talk to you," Carmen continued. "But he's afraid you won't take his call." "I'll talk to him. But Mom, I need you to understand something." Maya leaned forward, making sure her mother was looking her in the eyes. I love Charlotte. I love this family. But I can't keep sacrificing my own financial security and mental health to enable someone who doesn't appreciate it. If that makes me the bad guy, then I guess I'm the bad guy. And Carmen reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Her eyes were wet. You're not the bad guy, Mija. I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to be the one to fix everything. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the years of imbalance, but it was something. Maya squeezed her mother's hand, feeling a complex mix of relief and lingering resentment. After Carmen left, Maya's phone rang. Her father and Maya. Roberto Rodriguez's voice was gruff, tired. He worked construction, and at 62, the physical labor was taking its toll. Can I come see you? I'm here all day. NHE arrived an hour later, still in his work clothes, carrying 2 coffees from Maya's favorite cafe. They sat on her small balcony, overlooking the Austin Street below, and for a few minutes, they didn't talk. Finally, Roberto said, I owe you an apology. Maya waited, letting him find his words. I've known for a long time that Charlotte takes advantage of you. I told myself it was just sisters being sisters, that you didn't mind, that she'd grow up eventually. He took a sip of coffee. But seeing that registry, seeing her demand a car from you like you're made of money. Maya, I was ashamed. Of her, and of myself for letting it get this bad. Dad? Let me finish. He set his coffee down. When you were Charlotte's age, you were working 2 jobs and putting yourself through college. You never asked us for anything you didn't absolutely need. You were always so independent, so capable. And Charlotte, she's the opposite. She expects everything to be handed to her. You and Mom gave her that expectation. I know. Roberto's voice was heavy with regret. Your mother and I, we wanted to give you girls more than we had. But with you, you wouldn't take it even when we offered. With Charlotte, she takes everything and asks for more. And we let her, because saying no to her means tantrums and tears and accusations that we don't love her. So it's easier to pressure me to give in. It was. Past tense. Roberto looked at his daughter. I called Charlotte this morning. I told her the registry was obscene and that she owed you an apology. I told her that uninviting you was cruel, and that if she didn't make it right, she'd have to find someone else to walk her down the aisle. Maya's eyes widened. You didn't. I did, and she hung up on me, then called your mother crying, saying I was ruining her wedding. He smiled grimly. Carmen told her that maybe she was doing a good job of that herself. Mom said that? Your mother's eyes have been opened in the last 24 hours. She's been going through old bank statements, seeing how much money we've given Charlotte over the years. He shook his head. It's a lot, Maya. Money we could have put toward retirement, or your education, or anything else. They sat in silence again, the weight of years of dysfunctional family dynamics settling between them. What are you going to do about the wedding? Roberto asked. And I've already done it. I pulled my funding from the vendors. NHER father nodded slowly. How much of the wedding was that? About 40%. The photographer, flowers, and part of the catering. So the wedding can't happen as planned. Not unless Charlotte and Evan come up with the money themselves, or find another generous family member to exploit. Maya heard the bitterness in her own voice. Dad, I feel terrible. Part of me feels like I'm being vindictive, like I'm punishing her. You're not punishing her. You're setting a boundary. There's a difference. Roberto looked at his daughter with something like pride. I should have set boundaries years ago. We all should have. But we were too afraid of her reaction. So we made you deal with the consequences of her behavior instead. I can't keep doing it. I know, and you shouldn't have to. He stood, pulling Maya into a hug. Whatever happens with this wedding, whatever Charlotte does or says, your mother and I are on your side. We should have been there all along. After her father left, Maya sat on her balcony for another hour, watching the Austin traffic below and trying to process the conversation. Her parents were actually supporting her. After years of being the designated peacekeeper, of being told to be understanding and generous and forgiving, they were finally acknowledging that the family dynamic was broken. And it should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like grief, NHER phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jade, Charlotte's best friend. We need to talk." Naya almost ignored it, but curiosity won out. "About what?" "About what you're doing to Charlotte. Meet me tomorrow?" "Coffee?" Naya considered. Jade Park had been Charlotte's best friend since high school, and as far as Maya knew, she was fully Team Charlotte. But something in the message's tone suggested this wasn't just an ambush. "Fine. Java House on 6th Street. 10 a.m. See you there." Maya had no idea what Jade wanted, but she suspected the next day would bring more drama. The wedding was now less than 3 months away, and she'd just pulled the funding that would make it possible. Charlotte's dream wedding was about to become a nightmare, and Maya was the one holding the matches. NSHE should have felt guilty. Instead, she felt something closer to relief. Maya arrived at Java House 15 minutes early, strategically choosing a table in the back corner where they'd have privacy, but she'd also be visible to other patrons. She wasn't afraid of Jade exactly, but she also wasn't stupid. Charlotte's emotional manipulation had been refined over 2 decades. Who knew what tactics her best friend might employ? Jade walked in at exactly 10 a.m., her designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, carrying a leather tote that probably cost more than Maya's monthly car payment. At 27, Jade Park worked in pharmaceutical sales, and from her Instagram, she lived a life of luxury travel, expensive restaurants, and constant shopping. Maya had always assumed Jade came from money, but now she wondered if perhaps Jade simply spent money she didn't have. Much like Charlotte. "Thanks for meeting me," Jade said, sliding into the seat across from Maya. She ordered an oat milk latte from the passing server, then turned her attention to Maya with an expression that was hard to read. "You said we needed to talk." Maya kept her voice neutral. "I did, but probably not about what you think." Jade pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then slid it across the table. "I need you to see something." Maya looked down at the screen. It was a text conversation between Jade and Charlotte, dated from 2 months ago. "Charlotte, I think I can get Maya to cover most of the wedding if I play it right." Jade, "How?" Charlotte, "Easy. Make her feel like she's the only one who can help. Mom and Dad are broke, Evan's family is cheap. If I make it sound desperate enough, she'll cave." "She always does, Jade. What if she says no?" Charlotte, "She won't. But if she does, I'll guilt her. Tell her she's ruining my special day. Turn the family against her." Maya hates conflict. She'll pay up just to make it stop. Maya's stomach turned as she read. Seeing her sister's manipulations spelled out so explicitly, seeing the calculated strategy behind what she'd thought were emotional outbursts, made her feel physically sick. NSHE scrolled further. The conversation continued over several days, with Charlotte sharing updates on her plan to extract money from Maya, laughing about how easy it was, celebrating each time Maya agreed to cover another wedding expense. "Why are you showing me this?" Maya asked, sliding the phone back across the table. Jade took a sip of her latte, composing her thoughts. "Because I'm done being part of it." "Part of what?" "Part of Charlotte's, I don't even know what to call it. Scam? Lifestyle? Whatever she's doing, I don't want to be complicit anymore." Jade leaned back in her chair. "I've known Charlotte since we were 15. I've watched her manipulate people for over a decade. At first, it was small stuff. Getting out of group project work, convincing teachers to extend deadlines, talking her way out of trouble. I thought it was just Charlotte being Charlotte, you know? Charming, persuasive, a little spoiled. And now? Now I realize she's a con artist. And I helped her do it." Naya studied Jade's face, looking for signs of deception or hidden agenda. "Why the sudden change of heart?" Jade let out a bitter laugh. "Because last week, she tried to con me." NSHE explained. Charlotte had called her crying, saying she needed $8,000 to secure the venue deposit because Maya bailed on her. She'd spun a story about Maya jealously pulling funding out of spite, leaving Charlotte with no options. She'd begged Jade to lend her the money, promising to pay it back immediately after the wedding gifts came in. "And I was about to transfer it," Jade said. "I was literally on my banking app, ready to send $8,000, when something made me hesitate, so I called the venue directly to ask about payment plans." She met Maya's eyes. They told me the deposit was paid in full months ago. By you, Maya remembered that payment. It had been $6,500, made in January when Charlotte first got engaged. So I knew she was lying, Jade continued. I confronted her, and she tried to say it was a misunderstanding, that she'd gotten confused about which vendor needed payment. But I'd caught her, and she knew it. She got defensive, then mean. Told me I was a terrible friend for not supporting her, that if I really cared, I'd give her the money anyway for other wedding expenses. And did you give it to her? And hell no. And that's when it clicked. How many times had I given her money over the years? How many loans that never got repaid? How many dinners I paid for because she forgot her wallet? How many shopping trips where she convinced me to buy things for her because she was between paychecks? And Jade pulled up her banking app and showed Maya a spreadsheet she'd created. I went back through 3 years of Venmo, Zelle, and credit card statements. I've given Charlotte $31,400, NTHE number hung in the air between them. Jesus. Maya whispered, yeah. And that's just what I could document. There's probably more in cash that I can't track. Jade closed her phone. So when she started telling people you were the villain in this wedding drama, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Because I know exactly what she's doing. It's what she did to me, what she's probably done to dozens of people. Maya felt a strange sense of vindication mixed with sadness. Have you told her you're not supporting her story? I did better than that. I told the rest of her bridal party. You what? Jade smiled, and it wasn't entirely kind. There are 5 bridesmaids, right? Me, your cousin Sophia, her college friend Melissa, her coworker Tanya, and Evan's sister Brooklyn. Yesterday, I sent all of them a group text with screenshots of Charlotte's messages about manipulating you. I also included a summary of money each of us has loaned Charlotte over the years. How did you know about their loans? I asked. Once I opened that door, they all started sharing stories. Turns out Charlotte has borrowed money from every single bridesmaid. Sophia's out $5,000. Melissa lost $3,200. Tanya paid for a bachelorette trip Charlotte promised to reimburse her for $2,800. Brooklyn bought Charlotte's bridesmaid dresses for everyone because Charlotte said she'd pay her back from the wedding budget, and Maya did the math. That's over $12,000 from the bridal party alone, plus your $47,000 and my $31,000. Charlotte has extracted almost $100,000 from her closest friends and family in 3 years. Jade's voice was hard, and she's still asking for more. What did the bridesmaids say when you sent them the screenshots? Sophia already knew Charlotte was manipulative. She's your cousin. She's seen it firsthand with you. But she was pissed to see it spelled out so explicitly. Melissa dropped out of the wedding entirely. Tanya sent Charlotte a Venmo request for the $2,800 with the note, payment due immediately. Brooklyn called Evan. Maya's eyes widened. What did Evan say? No idea yet, but Brooklyn said she was, opening his eyes to who he's marrying. Jade took another sip of her latte. The wedding is imploding, Maya. And honestly, good. Charlotte needs to face consequences for once in her life. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Maya asked the question that had been nagging at her. Why didn't you speak up sooner? About the manipulation, the money, all of it. Jade looked uncomfortable. Because it's easy to ignore red flags when they're pointed at someone else. When Charlotte was manipulating you, I told myself it was just family dynamics, that maybe you guys had an arrangement. When she borrowed money from other people, I figured they were adults who could make their own decisions. It wasn't until she tried to scam me directly that I had to face what she really is. Which is? A narcissist. A user. Someone who views relationships as transactional opportunities. Jade met Maya's eyes. I'm sorry I didn't support you earlier. I'm sorry I was part of the system that enabled her, but I'm trying to make it right now. Maya wanted to be angry at Jade for years of complicity, but she also understood. She'd enabled Charlotte, too, for even longer. They'd all played a role in creating the monster that was now demanding $110,000 in wedding gifts. What happens now? Maya asked. Now? Now we let Charlotte's house of cards collapse. The bridesmaids are coordinating. Anyone who's owed money is requesting it back. Sophia's going to talk to your extended family about not contributing to any wedding funds. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth about what Charlotte did to you. Jade, I don't want to destroy her. You're not destroying her. She's destroying herself. You're just refusing to be collateral damage anymore. Jade stood, shouldering her expensive bag. The wedding is in 11 weeks. Charlotte has no photographer, no florist, no full catering, and now a bridal party that's abandoning her. Unless she magically comes up with $40,000 and a willingness to apologize to everyone she's hurt, there's not going to be a wedding. And after Jade left, Maya sat in the coffee shop for another hour, processing everything. The text messages exposing Charlotte's calculated manipulation. The revelation that nearly $100,000 had been extracted from her inner circle. The bridal party rebellion that was now underway. NSHE pulled out her phone and texted her father. We need to have a family meeting. You, me, Mom, and Charlotte. Tonight, if possible. NHI's response came quickly. I'll make it happen. 7 p.m. at our house? I'll be there. Maya spent the rest of the day preparing. She printed out her 3-year accounting of money given to Charlotte. She screenshot Jade's text conversation, with Jade's permission. She drafted talking points, determined to keep the conversation factual rather than emotional. Because the emotional part would come whether she planned for it or not. Charlotte excelled at emotional warfare, tears, accusations, playing the victim. Maya needed to be prepared. At 6:45 p.m., Maya pulled up to her childhood home in South Austin, a modest single-story house with a well-maintained yard that her father took pride in. Her mother's car was in the driveway, but she didn't see Charlotte's beat-up Civic. NSHE found her parents in the living room, both looking tense. Is she coming? Maya asked. She said she was. Carmen replied. But she's already 15 minutes late. At 7:20, Charlotte finally arrived, dramatically throwing open the front door and dropping her purse on the floor with a theatrical sigh. This better be important. I had to leave my dress fitting, and no apology for being late. No acknowledgement of the chaos she'd created. Just immediate grievance. Sit down, Charlotte, Roberto said, his voice leaving no room for argument.
And Charlotte flopped onto the couch, crossing her arms defensively. If this is another lecture about being more reasonable, I don't want to hear it. Maya ruined my wedding, and everyone's acting like I'm the bad guy. Actually, Maya said calmly, pulling out her printed documents. This is about the nearly $100,000 you've taken from your friends and family in the past 3 years. And the text messages where you admitted to deliberately manipulating me. Charlotte's face went pale. What are you talking about? Maya slid the papers across the coffee table. This is an accounting of every dollar I've given you since 2021. $47. $300. None of it repaid. Most of it obtained through lies about emergencies or promises you never kept. That's not, I didn't. And these. Maya continued, pulling out the screenshots from Jade. Are your text messages explaining exactly how you plan to manipulate me into funding your wedding? She always caves. I'll guilt her. Turn the family against her. Charlotte grabbed the screenshots, her hands shaking as she read. The color drained from her face entirely. Where did you get these? Jade gave them to me. After you tried to scam $8,000 from her with a lie about venue deposits? I wasn't scamming her. The venue was already paid for. By me. In January. Maya's voice remained level. You were trying to steal $8,000 from your best friend. And when she caught you, you attacked her instead of apologizing. Charlotte looked at their parents, clearly hoping for backup. But both Carmen and Roberto were staring at her with expressions Maya had never seen directed at Charlotte before. Disappointment and anger. Is this true? Carmen asked quietly. Did you write these messages? Anne, it's out of context. Anne, is it true? Roberto's voice was sharp. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears, her go-to defense mechanism. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Planning a wedding is so stressful, and everyone expects perfection, and you just wanted other people to pay for your fantasy. Roberto interrupted. While you treated your sister like a bank and your friends like marks in a con. Daddy, that's not fair. Don't. He held up a hand. I've read these texts, Charlotte. I've seen the numbers. I've talked to your Aunt Beatriz, who apparently loaned you $4,000 last year that you never repaid. I've talked to our neighbors, the Garcias, who say you borrowed their lawn equipment and never returned it. I've talked to Jade, who sent me her own accounting of money you've taken. Charlotte's tears were flowing freely now, but for the first time, they weren't working. Her parents weren't softening. They were angry. The wedding is canceled, Roberto said flatly. What? No, you can't. We can, and it is. You have 11 weeks until the date, and you have no vendor funding, no bridal party, and apparently no respect for the people who've been supporting you. Roberto stood, pacing to the window. Your mother and I enabled this. We let you get away with behavior we never would have accepted from Maya. That's on us. But it stops now. But I love Evan. We're supposed to get married.
Then get married at the courthouse like your mother and I did, Carmen said, her voice shaking slightly. Have a small celebration you can actually afford. Build a life together based on what you earn, not what you take from others. Charlotte turned to Maya, her expression shifting from tears to anger. This is all your fault. If you had just been supportive. And stop. Maya's voice cut through the room. I've been supportive for years. I've given you tens of thousands of dollars. I've covered for you, made excuses for you, forgiven you over and over. And you know what I got in return? Manipulation, lies, and demands for a BMW. She leaned forward. I'm done, Charlotte. Completely done. You don't get to treat people like ATMs and then cry when they close their accounts. You're supposed to be my sister. I am your sister. That's why this hurts so much. Maya felt her own eyes burning. I loved you enough to sacrifice my own financial security for your happiness. And you loved me so little that you texted your friends about how easy I was to manipulate. NTHE words hung in the air, heavy with years of accumulated hurt. Charlotte opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had no comeback. No deflection. No tears that could fix this. And I want you to get help, Maya continued. Real professional help. Therapy. Because this pattern of using people and discarding them when they set boundaries, it's not sustainable. You're 26 years old, Charlotte. You can't keep living like this. I don't need therapy, Charlotte said, but her voice was small. Yes, you do, Carmen said firmly. And your father and I should have insisted on it years ago. Roberto returned to his seat, looking older than he had that morning. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return any wedding gifts that have already arrived. You're going to personally apologize to every bridesmaid, and you're going to work out payment plans to return the money you borrowed from them. I don't have that kind of money? Then you get a second job. You work nights and weekends. You figure it out, because that's what adults do when they owe debts. He pulled out a piece of paper. Your mother and I went through our bank statements. Over the past 5 years, we've given you $68,000. Some of that was legitimate help when you needed it. Most of it was enabling bad behavior. That stops too. You're cutting me off? Charlotte's voice was disbelieving. We're making you stand on your own 2 feet, Carmen said. You have a job, you have an apartment, you have a fiancé who also works. You don't need our money, you just got used to having it. Naya watched her sister process this new reality. The tears had stopped. Now Charlotte just looked stunned, like a child who'd finally pushed far enough to discover their parents actually had limits. What about the wedding? Charlotte asked quietly. What about it? Roberto replied, Can I still get married? That's between you and Evan, but if you do, you fund it yourselves. And you start by apologizing to your sister and your friends for the way you've treated them. Charlotte looked at Maya. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Regret, perhaps, or recognition of the damage she'd done. But it passed quickly, replaced by the familiar defensiveness. I'm sorry you feel that way, Charlotte said, the non-apology hanging between them. Maya almost laughed. Even now, in the face of overwhelming evidence and united family opposition, Charlotte couldn't bring herself to actually apologize. To take genuine responsibility. That's not an apology, Maya said, but I'm not surprised. NSHE stood, gathering her papers. I'm glad we had this talk. Mom, Dad, thank you for backing me up. Charlotte, I hope you get the help you need. But I'm done being part of this dynamic. Nas Maya headed for the door. Charlotte called out. So that's it? You're just giving up on me. Naya turned back. I'm not giving up on you. I'm giving up on being your personal ATM and emotional punching bag. If you want a relationship with me in the future, it starts with genuine change and genuine apologies, not, I'm sorry you feel that way, not manipulation or guilt trips. Real accountability. NSHE left without waiting for a response.